Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham 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 sharanam gacchami. Bu Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami.
Drupa Jumden de Dijen Java Da Jumba Yandaba Zobe Sanje Rigwa Dan Shamsu Demba Dewara Jewa Jigden Jemba Jebun Dube Kalo Jorwa Lana Meva Lada Menamje Dumba Sanje Jumden de Penjawa Shaja Duba La Janze Lo Chodo Jazo Che Ho Dumba Jumden de Dijin Shaba Ta Jumba Yanda Ban Zobe Sanje Rigba Dan Jamso Demba Devara Shaba Jigden Jemba Jebun Dube Kalu Jorwa Lana Meva Lada Menam Je Dumba Sanje Jumden de Pejawa Shaja Duba La Janze Chodo Yazo Je Wo Dumba Chumden de Dejen Sheba Ta Chumba Yandaba Zobe Sanje Rigba Dan Jazo Demba Devara Sheba Jigden Jemba Jebo Dube Kalo Gyurba Lana Meba Lada Menamje Dumba Sanje Chumden de Benjawa Jaja Tuba La Jazelo Chodo Jazo Je Ho Sanje Chodan Soji Chonama La Chanju Bado Tani Jazo Je Tage Choje Jebe Zonama Je Drola Benje Sanje Drobara Sho Sanje Chodan Soji Chonama La Janju Bado Dani Jazo Je Dage Choje Jebe Zonama Je Drola Benje Sanje Drobara Sho Sanje Chodan Soji Chonama La Janju Bado Dani Jazo Che Dage Choje Jebe Zonama Je Drola Benje Sanje Drobara Sho Good morning and welcome back, and thank you for being with me today. Today is another cold day. So anyway, before we dive into the main chapter or the topic, I would like to update you all on Geshe-la. So maybe many of you are aware, or maybe not. So for the benefit of those who are unaware, so Geshe-la is still in meditation. So how long it has been now? I think at least 15 days since he passed away. So he's still in meditation, and we don't know when he will come out of meditation. So this shows that Geshe-la has really lived a full life, and then even at the end, he was able to utilize the death into the path. As I mentioned before, Geshe-la is from that generation of those practitioners, those monks, whose only concern is whether or not to have time to practice, whether or not to study Dharma. That's their priority. The other things that we treat as so important and that dominates our life is nothing. So as a result, you can see that Geshe-la is still in meditation. So the takeaway from this is that, first of all, those of you who have met Geshe-la, you need to realize that how fortunate you are to have met such a great being. Not only to have met, but also to receive teachings, not even once, for years. So that's one thing you need to realize this. Sometimes we feel that we are not that fortunate, but when we think in that sense, you are lucky. And then the second takeaway is that this shows that if we really prioritize Dharma as our our main purpose, then you can see the result. Because this is something the science world still cannot explain. To them, the person is dead. But of course, from Buddhist point of view, the person is not really dead. The consciousness is still there, is still in the process of dying. And the great practitioners, they are able to utilize that moment, the moment where your consciousness, your mind is at the subtlest level. It is said that when you are able to bring about the subtlest mind, it is very powerful in penetrating whatever object of meditation you are focusing on. So with that kind of subtle mind, if one is able to do meditation on emptiness, you can see real result. So that's why the Tantra practice, especially the completion stage, is all about bringing that subtle mind so that we can utilize to realize emptiness. But if we are unable to do, or we are unable to bring that subtle mind while we are alive, then the other option is to utilize that subtle mind which occurs generally, naturally. When we die, what is called, remember that when we talk about the dissolution, the stages of dissolution, so at the final dissolution, that's where the clear mind appears. All that subtle mind dissolves, and finally we are left with that subtlest mind, what is called clear light mind. For most of us, we are unable to harness that subtle mind because we have not practiced. We have not prepared for that. We have not trained ourselves to realize, to identify all these various stages of dissolution. Whereas the great practitioners, they have practiced that so many times on daily basis. Like His Holiness always says that His Holiness does this dissolution practice at least 5 to 6 times a day. So how many times we do, even those of us who are doing the Yamantaka sadhana, that's where we are supposed to do. If not, we are not doing during other times. But we hardly do that. So if we don't prepare, how can we expect at that time to be able to harness or to able to utilize that mind? So my point is, this shows that what is taught in Dharma, we can see with our own eyes that there is such thing as even after what is believed to be death, you can still remain in meditation, in meditative state for days. And those who, I think maybe you have not witnessed any of this, I myself have witnessed my own teacher who remained in that meditative state for 7 days. At the final day, we need to bathe the body. So when we were doing that, it's like if we look from behind, you wouldn't think that is actually a dead body, because all that luster, the shine, is all there. The only thing is that the head cannot support itself. Somebody needs to hold the head. Otherwise, everything looks like the person is alive. So that is like inexplicable. Is like hard to explain. Inexplicable. How can a body like me, if I don't eat for 2 days, I will shrink markedly. But when a person is in that kind of meditation, the body actually radiates. It becomes more radiant than the person was alive. So this shows that if we put effort, these are achievable. These are not something, what you call something, what is the word I'm looking for? Anyway, it's not something that is not visible. Only thing that is toying that thoughting that is our lack of practice. So as a student of Geshe-la, we should see him as the example. We should follow in his footsteps. We also want to be able to do that at the time when the time comes. Remember, we have the saying that the real practitioners, the superior practitioners, they look forward to death. They eagerly wait for death. It seems like they got tired of this old physical body and they want to change, they want to get into new clothes. So they have no fear or no hesitation. They look forward to that. They are happy to change. Then he says those medium practitioners, they won't be afraid of dying. Most of us are scared of death. And even the least practitioner, he said that they would not have any regrets. Now let's imagine or check, examine where do we fall in that category. Are you into the first one where you are happy, you look forward? Or are you in that second one where you are no longer afraid? Of course, when we say afraid, some people say that, oh, I'm not scared of death, I'm not afraid of dying. That, I think, sometimes can be what is called the ignorance is bliss. They are so ignorant of what lies beyond this life. They fail to realize, fail to comprehend what is beyond this life, what are the possibilities. So that's why it's being very naive. To be kind, I will use the word naive, but actually it's being ignorant. So that doesn't count. If your fearlessness of death is based on ignorance, then it doesn't count. But after realizing that when we die, we have to take another rebirth. The birth, there are only two, either lower REM or higher REM. So the destination, we have to continue our journey, but the destination are fixed. There are only two, either up or down. But when it comes to choosing destination, we cannot choose. Of course, in this world, when we want to travel, we can choose our destination. I want to travel to Switzerland. I want to go to Europe. I want to go to Australia. I want to go to America. You can choose your destination. Yeah, actually there is a similarity. You can say you want to go to Switzerland, but whether or not you get a visa is another issue. If you don't get the visa, if you get rejection, visa rejection, you cannot go to that place. Likewise, all of us want to go to the lower, higher REM destination of higher REMs. But do we have the visa in hand? We can apply, but for most of us, I think rejection is the possible outcome. But whereas the destination downhill to the lower realms, we don't need to apply. It's like with the American passport, you can fly or you can enter to many countries without visa. So we have that. When it comes to lower realms, we have that power, we have that status that we don't need to apply for visa. We can go directly to the lower realms. So once we are in, we don't need to talk about hell being or hungry ghost beings, but just look at the animal. If we were to be born as animal, especially those in the slaughterhouse, the animals that are raised for serving human needs, such as meat, dairy products, I think you must have come across those videos, how cruelly they were treated. And they give all kinds of foods and injections, not out of compassion, not for the benefit of the animal, just to make them big so that we can maximize their body, the meat. So imagine if we were to be born in that kind of life, how would we feel? What kind of suffering? At the moment, a little bit of cold or heat or something prickly, we complain. We had difficulty enduring it. But then, as that kind of animal, being born as that kind of animal. And also homeless people. Like today, imagine if you were homeless and you were in the street at this moment. Put yourself in that situation and then imagine, can you feel something? How cold it is outside. And people had no homes. They were not out there out of their choice. They were not there because they are enjoying. They were helpless. They were homeless. So that could be our life, next life. At the moment we live in a big, nice house with heaters on, and you may be even tuning in to this talk with a cup of coffee in your hand. But the moment this breath, when our breathing stops, we will be already transitioning to the next life, which could be a homeless person, which could be one of the animals at the farms. So when we realize, when we understand all this, then if you have a fear, that's okay. So the difference between that ignorant fearlessness and with understanding all the ramifications, and if you're still fearless, then really great. That means that you are confident. You have confidence that you will not fly. You will not be deported to these destinations. But right now, do you have that confidence? I don't have. And then the last one is the least one is the having no regret. If we were to die tomorrow, would we have regrets? I think most of us would have regret. Regret for not preparing for this journey, not doing enough to prepare for this journey. We were so occupied with other unimportant things. So that's why here it says, this is similar to a very popular stanza, but this is something different. It says, Chungne shenwang gyurne chö ma drup, tarne döbe tsege chö ma drup, kene langzo yewe chö ma drup, kema kihu dagi chishik cha. Says, when you were young, you were under the care of another person. So you don't really have that much freedom. So because of under that kind of circumstances, you didn't have the opportunity. This Lama is saying this. When I was young, I was under the control of others. I didn't have my freedom. But it's mostly, but when you are young, you are just occupied with playing and all that. Dharma, doing Dharma is unless you are exceptionally special being. This doesn't occur. So anyway, this Lama is saying that I was under the control of others because I have to be taken care of. So because of that, the thought to practice did not occur. And then when I become adult, I was distracted by Döbe Tsega, its attachment to this and that. For us, it's mainly finding a good job, settling down with a family, all about this world's goal, obsession over accumulation. And then some people don't even use that money. So just yesterday I was reading a book, and there's a very nice analogy. It says those person who amass so much wealth but don't use is like collecting firewoods for their own cremation. You collect wood to be used for your cremation. So anyway, what this Lama was saying is that when you reach adulthood, you have other priorities. You were so preoccupied by all these worldly things, the worldly concerns, desire for this and that has dominated your life, and there was no time for Dharma practice. And that actually kind of wasted 20, 30 years. And then you are already in that category. I'm old. Kene langzo yewe chö ma drup. So now, even though at that stage, your mind wants to do practice, but the body has deteriorated so much that it doesn't match. There is a mismatch. Mind says one thing, the body says something else. So that's how another 1 or 2 decades pass by. And it says, Kema Kihu Tani Chishicha. So Kema Kihu is like a cry, is a hue, saying that what can I do now? So Gongda Rinpoche's one is that Shu Chiju Maten Nishu De, Shu Chedo Chedo Nishu De, Majung Shini Nishu De, Mezi Tongpa Sebe Namdarins. So Gongda Rinpoche kind of summarize our life. That the first 20 years, this is based on Tibetan lifespan. Tibetans, they, in those days, they live, the average will be 60 years. Lifespan is 60 years. So it says the first 20 years, Shuchiju Maten, this thought to practice Dharma didn't occur. And that actually left 20 years, first 20 years. And then when you remember, when the thought occurs to do practice, you realize that you need to practice Dharma. But then there are other priorities, there are other obligations. So even though, despite saying that I need to practice Dharma, I need to practice Dharma, saying I need to practice Dharma, another 20 years pass by. And then now you're already old in Tibetan system. Majung shini nishude. So now it's like, now I couldn't do. I'm already old, I couldn't do. And saying this, another 20 years pass by. So it says that is the story of empty life, wasted life. So, I always say this. So whichever category you fall, if you fall in the first category, really good, no need to worry. Second category, very good. With understanding all that, and if you still don't fear, if you still have no fear in dying, very good. You are prepared. And then the third one, regret, no regret. So for most of us, including myself, we will have regret. When the death comes, if we continue with our pattern, this existing current pattern, current way of doing things, then when the time comes, there will be a huge remorse, huge regret. I shouldn't have all that. That's too late. You are already on the deathbed. There's nothing much you can do now. So I always say this, at the moment, we are still alive. Our faculties are intact. We have all the facilities, internal, external. We have achieved this human rebirth. We have met Buddha Dharma. We have met Mahayana teachings. We have met great teachers. We have met His Holiness. We have received teaching from His Holiness, who is the real Buddha, real our Lokiteshvara, Chenresi. What more can we ask in terms of external facilities? We don't need to struggle for our basic needs. In terms of subsistence, we are taken care of. In terms of shelter, we have house, we have heater, we have air condition, we have hot water, we have internet. Even listening to teachings, you don't have to drive out. You can stay in your room and just press one button, and there you are. How lucky we are. And what excuse do we have for not practicing Dharma? We have all the necessary conditions. The only thing is our effort, our commitment. So if we don't want to feel regret when the time comes, we still have time. We can still do something about it. What is the word? Better late than never. We may be a bit delayed, we may be late in doing, but it's better than doing nothing at all. So today is the first class of this semester. So from today, it is important to make a very strong determination. It's kind of a pledge that this is the first class of the year, and I will really try to do something. I will really commit to studying. Not only commit studying, to apply them. The whole purpose of studying is to practice, isn't it? Remember, the term Dharma is to bring transformation. Without transformation, then whatever we are doing is not Dharma practice. Yeah, you are reciting mantra. Yes, you are doing meditation. Yes, you are studying, you are reading Dharma texts. But it is not a Dharma practice. When we read Dharma texts, when we listen to Dharma texts, we need to see that Dharma teaching as a mirror. Whatever you are reading, whatever you are hearing, see yourself in there. What is your reflection in there? So use the Dharma as a mirror to look at yourself. Sometimes our tendency is that when we sit down for teaching, when Lama talks about all these faults and all that, and our thought will instantly go to look for other person. Oh yeah, he is like that. Oh, Lama is talking about him. Oh, that person, I know exactly what Lama is talking about. I know there's this guy, he is like this. But it's like everything is bounced against yourself. It's like Lama is not talking to you. It's like talking to somebody else. So that shows that we are not doing the reflection. We are not using Dharma as mirror. So we use Dharma as mirror, and then see yourself clearly, and then you will realize that what kind of transformation needs to be done, what kind of transformation we need to undergo. So that's important. So not only you commit to studying, but also commit to applying whatever you can. So in order to do that, you need to have set goals. If you set a goal that is very vague, I will try my best. That's very vague. That's very abstract. You won't be achieve anything. Remember what Yodo said? What's that? What is his name? Yodo, is it? The Star Wars. Yoda. Do or do not. There is no try. So you have to decide that, okay, I will do this, which something you can measure. Like say, I will never miss the class. Okay, you can measure that. And then from every class, I may not be able to put them into practice, everything I get from there, but I will commit to practicing at least 1 point from there. So if we do that every class, you can accumulate quite a bit. At the end of 1 year, you look back and you will feel proud. You will be, happy with yourself. Okay, last year I started off with this and I think I did well. So that's we should be able to do when the next year comes. So remember, every year I talk about this resolution thing. So it's kind of deja vu. So I'm not going to repeat that. But because this is the first class, you have to set your mind. You have to make this determination. Because when you have a clear mind, what you want to do, then it's easier to follow through. So now that we are going to begin this teaching, so of course motivation is important. That's why we always, at the beginning of teaching, we always recite Sanje Chöda, Soji Chonamla. So that is refuge and bodhicitta. So we are setting our altruistic mindset. So we say that in order to benefit sentient beings, I will, what's that? So whatever merit I engage in, the merits from engaging in virtuous deeds, may I become Buddhahood. So that's what we say all the time. But recently I came across a text to say that what we are really saying when we say that I want to achieve enlightenment, I want to become Buddhahood, what we are really saying is that I wanted to perfect all the qualifications. That's true, isn't it? We hardly think on that. It has become kind of a routine. It has become like a parroting. We hardly ponder on the words that are coming from our mouth. We just take it as a the routine thing and say it. But that is a very, I believe that is a very important or poignant point. When we say, I want to achieve enlightenment, what we are saying is, I want to perfect all the qualities. So in order to perfect all the qualities, we need to first remove all the faults, all the flaws. So that means we have to make changes to our actions, the actions of our body, speech, and mind. So when it comes to making or bringing transformations, there are grosser levels as well as subtle levels. The grosser level, the bare minimum we should be doing in terms of transforming our actions, our body, speech, and mind, bare minimum we should be doing is to engage in moral contacts or the observing the ethical discipline of restraining from the 10 non-virtue. That is the bare minimum. That as a base, that as a foundation, then you can build on other things. And then, of course, all this arises from unruly mind. So mind is the cause of all this. So we need to change our mind, transform our mind. So anyway, when we say we want to achieve enlightenment, so the achieving enlightenment is solely dependent on developing bodhicitta mind. So bodhicitta mind, developing bodhicitta mind is again completely contingent on developing great compassion. So in order for us to develop compassion, we need to first see the other person as endearing. Remember, when it comes to that, the sense of endearment is about seeing every sentient being the way a mother sees her child. So we need to develop that. But what really hinders that development is our hatred, our anger. How can you develop compassion? How can you develop loving kindness? How can you develop sense of endearments when you hold grudges or hatred or anger against another person? It is what is called antithetical. It goes completely against. It is completely opposite. So for many of us, although we say that when we do prayers, we say that all sentient beings, but at the side of there, at the corner somewhere, we hate that person. We had issues with this person. We have animosity against a certain people. So it doesn't really match, isn't it? So anger and hatred is direct opposite of compassion or loving kindness. So if we want to really benefit sentient beings, because our main goal, primary goal to achieve enlightenment is to help sentient beings. In whatever capacity we can, is to really help. Of course, main goal is to bring them to the state of lasting happiness. But imagine if you lack patience, how can you benefit other person? Let's say even if you volunteer at a hospital or those senior living places. The first day, second day is okay. You are energetic, enthusiastic about it. But then, yeah, when you started to see the what you call the tendencies of all people, then your patience runs out. Then you become irritable, and then anger comes in. So how can you accommodate kind service to them when you lack that kind of patience? So that's why those of us pursuing the Bodhisattva path, the patience is so important. And we know from our own experience, even in conventional world, like just in one family, you know how important patience is. If one of the family members have temper issues, gets angry easily, how much havoc, how much disruption it causes in the family. We know that. And we also know from our own experience how damaging anger can become. Even at workplace, if you cannot manage your anger, you will be kicked out of your workplace. Because with anger, you will engage in anger. Let me reverse. Anger leads to violence, aggressive behaviors. So that nobody wants that kind of thing happened at their workplace. So anyway, so that's why it's very important to regulate our anger. Of course, we all have anger. Anger is one of the main human emotions. Everybody is born with that. Everybody has anger. But there are ways to regulate it. There are ways to curb it. So the chapter 6 is all about that. Shantideva very lucidly explains the methods and methods, how to regulate this emotion, destructive emotion. So let's see. So I think I have covered this before, but I just want to refresh your memory. So when it comes to Bodhicharyavatara texts, so there are 10 chapters. So this is the outline. This is how these chapters are divided. Why there is 10 chapters. So we recite this Chanju Simjo Rinpoche, O precious and sublime bodhicitta, may it arise in those in whom it has not arisen. May it never decline where it has arisen, but go on increasing further and further. So that's the prayer that we recite. So this is that the division of the chapters aligns with that prayers. So the first 3 chapters is all about the means to cultivate, the methods to cultivate bodhicitta that has not arisen. So the first 3 chapters is all about, first, of course, begins with the benefit. It extols the benefit of bodhicitta. That's how you inspire people to generate interest in developing bodhicitta. So the first three is all about methods to cultivate bodhicitta that has not arisen. And then once a person has developed that the bodhicitta, so we still need to maintain that, we still need to sustain that. So the next three chapters, the beginning with the conscientiousness chapter, which we covered. So this is all to help us sustain that, the bodhicitta that we have already, that one has already developed. And then the subsequent three chapters is about enhancing bodhicitta. Now that first we have developed, we are able to maintain, but we still need to enhance that. We still need to develop that further. So in order to help that comes the next three chapters. So that would be starting from enthusiasm. So the patience chapter falls under the second category, the methods to sustain. So you can see the correlation there, because if we have this anger issue, if we get angry all the time, so there's this danger that you may let go of your bodhicitta mind. You will think that the lack of your patience is that all sentient beings are very hard to please. So I can no longer, do this. I don't care what happens to them. So that's when you are abandoning the bodhicitta mind. So there is this danger. So that's why the tolerance or the patience chapter is part of the second category. And then finally we have the chapter 10, which is about dedication. So Shantideva is dedicating the merit that he has accrued from teaching those first 9 chapters. So that's the outline of the Junjuku, or the Bodhicharyavatara text. So now we are going to dive into the actual chapter. So the verse 1 begins. So let me read the Tibetan as well. Gyaba tongdo sakba yi jindan deshi chola leche kangi tegunya kondro chigi jombar cheyes. Whatever wholesome deeds, such as venerating the Buddhas and practicing generosity, that have been amassed over 1,000 eons, will all be destroyed in one moment of anger. So here Shantideva begins by explaining the disadvantages or the flaws or the faults of anger. So you have noticed that in Buddhism is when most of the time it all begins, if it is about bodhicitta, it always begins with extolling bodhicitta. And then when it comes to these destructive emotions, the emotions that we need to abandon, it all begins with listing or highlighting the shortcomings of that particular destructive emotion. So the reason is that when you are able to see the faults, then you will do something about it. So at the moment, remember the Buddha, when he achieved enlightenment, he didn't teach for 49 days. He says that whatever I have realized, this nectar, the Dharma nectar, if I were to teach the world, they wouldn't understand. So that's why I rather stay in the forest. That's what Buddha said when we first achieve enlightenment. Of course, the one reason is that any teaching, they need to be somebody to request. So you cannot teach simply without somebody requesting. So there is this part as well. But the main reason is that what Buddha has realized is completely opposite of what people believe. So Buddha is going to say that whatever people find pleasurable, whatever people mistakenly view as happiness and joy, to Buddha is suffering. So that's why we have three types of suffering. Everybody can understand the first one, suffering of suffering. But when it comes to suffering of change and then pervasive suffering, people don't understand that, especially the suffering of change. People view them as happiness. So that's why at the moment, many of us, the majority, how many people are on this earth? And most of us, we have difficulty really letting go of these worldly pleasures. We have difficulty focusing on real Dharma practice because we are entrapped. We are trapped in this. We are sunken in that worldly pleasure, muddy pool of worldly pleasures. So we are already stuck there. It is so hard to get out. The main reason is we don't realize that. Like those of us who have studied, we know at the surface level, we know that, oh, there's suffering of change, all these are suffering, but we lack that conviction. Because we lack that conviction, we still pursue that. So that's why it's very important to really see the faults. So let's say if you have a device at home, but if you, let's say plant, so one time there was this plant everybody was raving about, so everybody keeps in the house. But then later it turned out that, oh, that is kind of poison, it is very dangerous to health, and this, then suddenly people started to remove that plant. First, we are ignorant. So surprisingly, when it comes to anger, there are many people who are ignorant of the destructive nature of anger. And some people even believe that anger is good to have. So that's why when I was in Atlanta, so they were developing this, at the moment it's called SC learning. So when they were developing this, so when in our class, so the professor gave us some sample and asked for our feedback. And during that time, he was telling us that there was so much opposition from the education, whatever, I don't know, the group, about pointing out that anger is a destructive emotion, anger is bad. And their reason is that if you say that the child, those who have angers, they will think that they are bad and worthless and all this. But you have to differentiate between anger and the person, isn't it? So anyway, my point is that we need to really see the fault of anger. Only then this thought to do something about that will perhaps arise, may perhaps arise. So that's what I was saying. So here the destructive nature, anger and hatred. So how destructive they can be. So the first one is about kind of invisible destructive nature, because these we cannot see. It says, whatever wholesome deeds, such as venerating the Buddhas and practicing generosity. So whatever virtue we have done in relation to making offerings to Buddhas, and also practicing generosity and ethical discipline. So whatever virtue we have accrued, we have amassed from these virtuous actions will be destroyed. Not just one virtue, the virtues that we have amassed over thousands of eons will all be destroyed in one moment of anger. Imagine that. Just one moment. It takes, for the merits that we have accumulated over 1,000 eons, takes only one moment anger to destroy, to turn them into ashes. But here, of course, the object of our anger has to be bodhisattva. So if bodhisattvas, there are different categories. So bodhisattvas, I think I just keep it that way, it's better. So anyway, here we're talking about a non-bodhisattva gets angry at a bodhisattva, then the merits that were accumulated over a period of 1,000 eons will be destroyed in an instant. That doesn't mean that we should take comfort in that. We may think, oh, then it's okay, I don't get angry at bodhisattvas. But do you know whether or not the object of your anger is bodhisattva or not? That's the problem. That's the danger. If the person is a real bodhisattva, they may not declare, they may not, what is that called? The Bachelor, is it? They may not, raise the flag to say, hey, I'm bodhisattva. They won't say that. They will always hide their qualities. To us, it seems like a very ordinary person. But that person may be a bodhisattva. We do not have the clairvoyance. If we do, of course, we can choose our object to be angry. But that's why it is so dangerous. Anger is so dangerous, especially for those of us who are pursuing the path. So when we say destroy, so what does it mean? So destroy doesn't mean that we do this, we get angry and whatever that merit, it kind of evaporates. It's not that, doesn't mean that in that sense. It means that the whatever result we are supposed to experience, we will be unable to receive, or what do you call, enjoy that result. It is like a burned seed. So if the seed is burned, then no matter, no matter the soil is fertile or not, no matter whether it comes into contact with fertile soil, then fertilizer or water, whatever it is, but it cannot, nothing can sprout from that. No result will come out of that. Likewise, the merits that are destroyed, by anger that we cannot experience the results. No result will ripen out of it. So that's the meaning when it says it's destroyed. Shedan dabu tikba me, soba dabu kadu me, dewe soba nenden nazo suji kombar chas. So now there is no evil like hatred and no fortitude like patience. Thus I should strive in various ways to meditate on patience. So it's that there is no evil like hatred. There are many destructive emotions. There are many negative actions. But it said that there is nothing evil like hatred or anger. The reason is that anger by itself or hatred by itself, when you engage in, we are already committing a negative action, non-virtue, and thereby we will experience negative consequences. But when it comes to hatred, not only it results into a negative result, it also destroyed the virtue, like other negative actions, like lying, like hitting somebody, like killing, stealing. All this, yes, when you engage in that, you commit a non-virtue, and thereby you will experience the negative ramification. But they don't destroy the virtue that you have amassed before. However, when it comes to anger or hatred, not only it generates a non-virtuous action, but it also destroys the virtue that we have accumulated before. And not only just one virtue, the virtues that we have accumulated over thousands of eons. But of course, we have to make the distinction. It says that the virtue that are being destroyed are like the examples that are given, like observing ethical discipline, like engaging in giving and making offerings to Buddha. But any virtue that is complemented by wisdom realizing emptiness, that is beyond destruction by anger. So that's why it is so important to always end or conclude our prayer with dedication plus what is called the three spears, sealing with three spears, which is like seeing that the giver or the whatever, if you have any merit, like the doer, the agent, remember, doer, the object, and then whatever is being dedicated, seeing that as empty. So that kinds of seals that merit, and then anger cannot destroy. And also once you have achieved shamatha, when you have received calm abiding, then any meditation or virtue amassed through the mode of calm abiding, those virtues are also safe and secure. Anger cannot destroy. But for us, it's like most of the virtues, isn't it? Because we hardly seal our merits with these three spears, nor we have achieved calm abiding. So that's why for us, whatever distinction is there, it is same to us. And no fortitude like patience. So there is no fortitude like patience. Because of patience, we can prevent so many things. With patience, we can prevent or we can secure our merits. So therefore, it says that, of course, here Shantideva is saying I should, but he's saying that we should, you should. So we should strive in various ways to meditate on patience. So all that various ways Shantideva is going to list later. So he's saying that whatever, all that subsequent, the following varieties of methods, we need to employ them so that we can develop patience and eliminate anger. So we will stop here today. Thank you. Let's dedicate our merits. Tagi jinyi sakbe gyawa de tendang rowa kunla kangben dang gyawara chizun losan thakba yi tenbe nyingbo ringdo seje sho jambe bayu jedara kemba dang kundu sambo tenyang deshin do teda kungi jesu talobchi gyawa deda damje rabdo ngo tuzun shikbe gyawa damje ngowa kanla chodo ngaba dagi gewe zawan degun jan sambo chuji rabdo ngo waraki. Thank you.